Marianne, there are, and I've read things that you've written. I know that you are critical of international adoption, and I can understand that. There are rational people who say, no, there's a better way to do things. And we could have that.
I have no opinion about international adoption.
You don't?
My concern
is I have some things that you've written about that.
My concern is that international adoption be done in the right manner.
We share that concern.
And that it be a last resort. And what I saw in Ethiopia was that generally it wasn't a last resort.
What other option did you see would be available?
Well, that locals adopt children.
And how would locals in Kimbata, who have nothing, who are barely making...
I'm not talking about Kimbata.
Well, I am for a moment.
For a moment. Anywhere in Ethiopia.
How would those people support those children? If they could, why are they not now? And we don't, CWA does not espouse that international adoption...
Why doesn't CWA have a program in Kimbata? You know, looking up, keeping those children within their family.
Does ABC?
No, because it's not our job.
Because it's not your job. Is it CWA's job? CWA has it as a job because CWA cares about people. It's a peer-reviewed, accredited, Hague-approved 501c3 organization. Your business has an $850 million budget in 2008. You do nothing to help the starving kids in Ethiopia. And yet here we sit while you throw stones at the way a nonprofit organization tries to pour out and give to those people. Isn't there an irony to that?
Can I ask you about it being a non-profit organisation? It has an income of more than $1 million a year. Tommy Lee Harding and
well, first let's talk about what income is.
In excess of $200,000 a year.
Combined? Their combined salaries?
Combined salaries.
Sure. How much do you make?
That's a lot for a non-profit organisation.
Is it? On what do you base that?
Well, the average income in America is $55,000.
If you had the
median is $26,000.
If you had an international adoption agency that rescues 700 children a year, if you had an organization that generates hundreds of thousands of dollars to provide food, medicine, clothing in countries all around the world, if you pour your life into that and you work 60 hours a week, don't you think that those people would be worth $100,000? If I had Christian World Adoption, they would be exactly the kind of people I would want to hire. And I'll bet you make more than $100,000 a year.
It costs an adoptive family, what is it, between $20,000 and $30,000 US to adopt a child.
It does.
Where does that money go to?
Well, first of all, I'm not sure that your numbers are right, but I can answer the second part. As with any 501...
So what does CWA charge then?
I'll be happy to get you a list of their fees. To quote them off the top of my head, I couldn't do that with complete accuracy. My best memory, okay, and that's what it is, if you don't edit this out, okay, to make something of it, it's not. But my best memory is that a child can be adopted from Ethiopia in the 20 range. That's my best memory.
So that's a lot of money, though,
it is a lot of money.
Considering that the fees in Ethiopia are next to nothing. Where is that money going?
Fees are, you're talking about the expenses that parents pay. Well, some of it is truly fees, cost. The U.S. government, as you know, charges. And the Ethiopian government does not. This government that you throw stones at, that doesn't care about its people, that's making $100 million according to your secret sources. The U.S. government charges a fee, so they get paid. There are home studies that have to be done, and those providers get paid. There's travel that's part of that. And that's very, very expensive. You travel a lot, you know what that can be. Sitting here, I just can't detail for you all of it, tell you where all of it goes, but it is an expensive process.
Okay.
But but you understand, I hope you do anyway, that 501c3 is not a corporation that has shareholders that get dividends and distributions. Do you understand that? That a 501c3 is a government-regulated body. Do you understand that? They have to provide an accounting to the U.S. government to maintain their 501c3 status. And their funds have to be turned back into their operations. So that's what funds a lot of these clothing programs and medical programs and feeding programs that have nothing to do, absolutely nothing to do with children who are adopted.
What is CWA's relationship with the orphanage in Soto?
Well, there are more than one orphanage in Soto, so there is an
CCCI.
CCCE.
E.
Yeah, yeah. The way the structure is in all of Ethiopia, as I best understand it, and I can't tell you that I have an intimate understanding of this, but my best knowledge is it works like this. There are orphanages that are private orphanages, such as CCCE, and they are funded by one or more adoption agencies. Those relationships between the adoption agency and the orphanage are a matter of public record. And there are contracts that are actually provided to the Ethiopian government to make them aware of that. And so all, as I understand anyway, all adoption agencies have relationships with private orphanages there to support the needs of local children there. And those are largely the facilities where children are identified on behalf of those respective adoption agencies.
Isn't that a massive conflict of interest?
Are you asking me or the Ethiopian government?
I'm asking you.
No, it's not. No, as long as it's public and known, as long as the Ethiopian government knows of the arrangement, as long as those things are governed, those children again, and the hang-up that you seem to have, Marianne, the part that I feel like I'm not communicating well to you is, it is the Ethiopian government, not the orphanage, not the adoption agency, that determines if a child is in fact an orphan and adoptable.
Okay, just with regard to CWA's staff in Ethiopia, quite a few of them are former employees of the department that looks after international adoption. One, in fact, was the former head of that department. Isn't that why? Why did CWA employ those people?
Now you said quite a few. How many?
I think there's two. Well, two senior people.
Come now, Marianne. Are we not? Is this not exactly the kind of exaggeration?
No, there's two. One.
I'm going to finish my statement. Is this
on.
not exactly the kind of exaggeration that has completely colored your credibility?
Can we just
Several
talk,
of them. Oh,
can
two.
we just talk about the one particular one who was actually the head of the International Adoption Department?
I want you to know that I'm going to investigate statements that you make.
Absolutely.
Just like you investigate mine.
Yep.
And when you say things like that are exaggerations, I'm going to do my best to call you on them.
Well,
okay?
I
Just
want
in
to talk
fairness.
about the one particular one.
Yeah.
The one particular one who was the head of the Department for Women's Affairs, who now works for Christian World Adoption.
And I wish I could give you information about that. I don't know anything about that. I truthfully have no information. I don't know if someone worked for MOA or not. I can tell you this.
How could you not know that? You've just been to Ethiopia and talked with the staff there. How could you not know that one was a former head of the Ministry of Women's Affairs?
Because I didn't talk with all the staff, and I didn't ask them their credentials or see their resumes.
But
That wasn't my
he's one of the
purpose.
senior members of staff.
He is he?
Yeah.
All I can tell you is I don't know. I'm happy to look into it, and I'm happy to have another interview with you and tell you what I find out. I'm comfortable with that. I can tell you this. Having represented this agency for 10 or 12 years, there is no client that I would say has always acted perfectly. None, because they're comprised of human beings, just like you and I. That having been said, CWA is an incredibly gifted, incredibly passionate organization whose people pour themselves out every day for people that can do nothing for them. I think that's more than can be said for most of us.